So maybe let's go into the bedroom kind of distribution and share with us your thoughts about what do you think about this bold move. In fact, why do I say that it's a bold move is that when Wayne first did the research and I saw that the 4-beta has 100 units, I think that is actually quite a bold move. But could it be because of the studying of the demographics right there in the Lentor area? What do you think, Grace? Like, there's a huge amount of 3-bed premium, huge amount of 4-bed premium. I mean, compared to some of the launches we did reviews, that developers are really doubling down on the 2-bedroom types, right? But this one seems very balanced. 598 units, but it seems that in terms of balance of the large sizes ones, they're putting a lot more emphasis. What do you think, Grace?
Yeah, so I think that definitely it's a strategic move to have more of the units being bigger unit sizes. It is a bold move, but I think it's a calculated move as well. So if you were to look in the area, actually they are in the vicinity of a lot of larger freehold projects. So this could be a competitive edge that they do want to have to offer in terms of size. So second thing is that it is also in an area with, I believe, pretty good schools. So I think there are many family types who like this area. And with the Thomson East Coast line that has been announced, that this area has seen a lot of rejuvenation, right? And thirdly, also because this Lentor area also does house a lot of landed homes. Yeah, so I believe that this could cater to, number one, upgraders in the area. Let's say they are staying at an older freehold project, for example. They want to move to something of decent size. Or they could be landed home downgraders who want to remain in the area, move to something newer, but they still want to retain that size factor.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Wayne, what are your thoughts on the fact that there are a reintroduction? I mean, although not a lot, is like 8 units of 3-bed dual key, 4-bed dual key. Do you think that these units will be instantly absorbed? And also, on a very interesting fact is that they went back to the traditional model whereby, compared with, I think, Blossoms, Blossoms built the dual key smaller than their biggest 3-bedder, right?
Correct.
So they made the dual key into a very palatable quantum. This went back to the traditional model whereby the dual key is the largest version.
Yep.
And thus, if you look at the disparity, 3-bed dual key versus 4-beta is about the same pricing.
Yep.
And there's only a 35 square feet difference. So do you think that these 8 units will be difficult to move, or what are your perspective on this?
I think it really comes back to the fact that why would people want to buy a dual key unit? I think people want to buy a dual key unit because they want to have the flexibility of owning 2 different properties without having to pay ABSD. So they will want to go for that kind of rental play. And Lentor area is actually very close towards the Seletar Aerospace, where there is still abundance of workers or skilled workers and tenants that actually are working in the area. They are looking for places to actually stay. And the fact that we are also very close towards the Thomson East Coast MRT station, which actually opens up the possibilities for rental play as well.
Right.
So I believe that there will still be a market for people who wants to buy a dual key unit. I think probably what I may be thinking from the developer's perspective is that they may be using Lentor Hills Residences to test the market receptance towards dual key units. And that's the reason why they only have it in 8 units. I mean, total add up is only 16 units, which adds up to probably even less than 5% of the overall total units mix. So once these units' performance does great, they may probably introduce such dual key units towards the rest of the other new launches in the area.
Yeah. But to be honest, because the pricing is so similar between the 3-bed dual key as well as the 4-bedder, I do think that the 4-bedder will definitely see more demand, despite the supply,
Right.
8 versus 100 units. I still think that the 4-bedders or rather even like looking at the 3-bed premium, right? It is a 400K disparity between the 3-bed premium and the 3-bed dual key.
Right.
Yeah, so I feel that in this instance, the dual key units may not perform as well as the traditional 3 and 4 bidders.
Yep.
The 3-bed premium as well as the 4-bedder, just because of the pricing. It is a little bit too far from the 3-bed premium and too close to the 4-bedder.
4-bedroom, right.
Yeah, so buyers may zap up the 3-bed premium first before looking at the dual key, especially because if we are talking in this area, yes, I do foresee a certain amount of rental demand, but I do think that people buying for own stay may be more predominant.
Definitely. I mean, generally, if you look at the population census data in the area itself, you see that actually owner-occupiers actually takes up more than 85% of the total populations in the area.
Right.
So which actually then explains why the number of 4-bedders and 3-bedders are actually at a higher percentage as compared to some of the other new launches that we see in today's market. So tenants itself is only about 13%. So this data is actually based on Lentor Modern, and I believe it actually resonates very much in the whole entire area.
I think the dual key in this instance may be more targeted at multi-generational family types or people, they have their parents or their in-laws staying, then maybe they might look at this dual key. Definitely suitable and flexible for rental play as well, but perhaps more for multi-generational living.
Yeah, I also noticed that in terms of the building design, maybe Wayne can bring out the so-called visualization of how the building looks like. There's actually tapering.
Yes. So actually on this particular point, I was just sharing with Melvin earlier on. While I was doing this research, I realized that if you were to dig deeper into the URA tender documents, you actually can find out a lot of information to how the site will be positioned in a way. So when I was doing this research, actually I just want to bring out this drawing. So if you really are interested to find out more about how the whole entire Central Lentor Hill will eventually looks like when all the developments are being built, I actually chanced upon this wind funnel map that actually shows all the developments of how the buildings should be positioned, and there's actually regulations by URA to have a distance between buildings to be 30 meters, just so that wind flow can flow through the building into the whole entire area. So by looking at this map, you can actually see that this area, this is where Lentor Hills Residences will be, and this is actually Lentor Modern. And then, of course, the rest will be the rest of the eventual projects that will eventually launch over there in Lentor. So in general, this will be how it looks like. But of course, Lentor Hills being Lentor Hill, is actually a hill area. So when I dig into the tender document for Lentor Hills Residences, they actually have mentioned that it's actually a tapering kind of building structure. So there's also envelope control for the buildings all the way upwards. Very interestingly, in this project, there's also a conservation tree that the developer has to conserve within the project.
And it's like a V-shaped format as well.
So if I were to pull up this diagram, this is actually the tender document for Lentor Hills Residences. So you can see that it's actually being staggered in a way that it goes all the way upwards. So right here, this would actually be the main road. And then behind this is actually the Lentor Park, right? It's called the Lentor
Hillock Park.
Yeah, that's the main attraction.
So
there.
the lowest height building is actually up to 8 stories, and the middle tier will actually be 16 stories, and the highest rise will actually goes all the way up to 23 stories. So Lentor Hills Residences is sitting on a land plot ratio of 3.0.
Right.
It's slightly lower than Lentor Modern, which is at 3.5.
Right.
But 3 being is also relatively higher already. So you can see that it's actually all the way tapering upwards. And very interestingly, the 3-bedroom dual key and a 4-bedroom dual key being 16 units, they are all located on
At
this
the lower tier.
rise.
Yeah, maybe bring out that design concept. So one observation is that I think developers are also very smart. If you look at that, if you are a consumer, naturally I think your mind will be thinking hey, should I go for that low-rise tower because there's only so few of them? Or should I go for at least a mid or high-rise version? And thus, if you look at the preliminary site plan, I think they're putting all the dual keys into the low-rise.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so it's unique. And naturally, with that uniqueness, if dual key would be planted across and is spread out, maybe it will not sell as well. But if you just put everything there, it creates a unique product within that low tower. Another thing just now, as Wayne, you were mentioning about the wind funnel system. Have you guys been to okay, Grace, you have sold a unit at Interlace before, right?
Yeah.
Okay. If you go to Interlace, you go to Principal Garden, you go to, what's that? Deleden. The wind funnel that is being created by the design shape of the buildings are so important. If you just go to these 3 projects, just feel that when you walk downstairs, it's extremely windy. It's very strange. The funneling system just brings in the wind circulation. What do you think about Interlace, Grace?
Okay, I think Interlace is one of those architectural feats, right? So the design itself is really unique, but it is not just for the aesthetics it's also for ergonomics purposes and also for, daily life. So when I am looking at Lentor, especially around the Hillock Park, my main thoughts would be that, will it just become a really congested area with a lot of upcoming projects? Will this become a whole new a whole new Lentor enclave, yes, but also will it be too overcrowded? It's heartening to know that the design principles have been laid out and thought through carefully, that it is not just to pack the land as full as possible with as many units, but also to design it in a way that the residents have a fantastic way of life, right? That they do get that wind flow. And yes, in Interlace, it's definitely a very pleasant experience walking around. I love to see the building structures, but I also love to I love to know that a place has been designed with living in mind, right? Not just to sell or not just to pack a place for people. Yeah, so I think it's fantastic to see this wind flow. So if as a buyer, maybe if I had concerns that, will it become really like claustrophobic, then I am happy to learn that there are actually designations and regulations on the setback distance.
Yeah, so the interesting thing is that when we talk about Interlace, we talk about Principal Garden, we talk about Deliden, these are singular projects designed with wind flow concepts from the architect on the particular buildings within that same project. Correct. But if you look at Hillock Park, it's very different. These are wind flow concepts across different parcels.
Right.
Yeah, so it's like it's a whole family that's being planted in, and fantastic to know that, URA actually planned this, that the developer has to adhere to it. And so Wei, what you're saying is that all these are already available on URA website.
You have to do some digging, you have to download some data.
Meaning actually the site plan is already sort of out.
Yes.
Wow, that's fantastic.
In a way, they have to design in a way that you have to have a certain distance between buildings, and that is as much as what the architects or the developers can actually plan out in terms of the building.
I think that's the benefit that you get of moving in, of being a first mover into a new town, right?
Yeah.
So let's say if we are reconstructing or we are developers have bought over a land in somewhere that is already a mature estate, then likely there's not much configuration or synergy that can be done between you and your neighboring projects. But because this is a refreshing new area with so much developments coming up, you get to be part of the action, and URA is actually having a hand in shaping the entire district, which is fantastic.
Yeah, great.
Mission control, we have liftoff.